Hello and welcome to episode 51 of Can We Still Be Friends, a podcast that tests the limits of the friendship between two people who mistake movie taste for personal morality. I'm Nate Goss, here with Ryan Ebling, and for today's episode, we welcome our good friend Phil Vickers to join in the discussion of The Fast and the Furious, the action blockbuster from 2001 that spawned a hit franchise. The Fate of the Furious, the 8th movie in the series, was released this month and set world records in its first weekend. Ryan and I haven't seen any of the Fast and or Furious movies, so we started at the beginning, and we enlisted Phil's help to take this one head on.
Upon its release, The Fast and Furious was an instant success, recouping its $38 million budget in the first weekend alone, and would go on to earn over $144 million in the U.S. It solidified the action flick careers of Vin Diesel and Paul Walker, and as Nate mentioned, launched a hit franchise that continues to rake in obscene amounts of cash. A few high-profile critics saw the action appeal of The Fast and the Furious, and subsequent movies have gotten no small amount of acclaim, though Vin Diesel's prediction of a Best Picture nomination for Furious 7 did not come true.
So is there something special about The Fast and the Furious that sets it apart?
Or is this movie granny shifting, not double clutching like it should? Keep listening.
What are you smiling about?
Dude, I almost had you.
You almost had me? You never had me. You never had your car. Granny shifting, not double clutching like you should. You're lucky that 100 shot of NOS didn't blow the welds on the intake. Almost had me? Now me and the mad scientist got to rip apart the block and replace the piston rings you fried. Ask any racer, any real racer. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
All right, so that was Dom Toretto, played by Vin Diesel.
Dominic.
Dominic.
Dom's short for Dominic.
Yeah, people who know him call him Dom.
Right. I don't consider myself on a Dom basis with him, but...
So Dom is putting Brian, newbie Paul Walker, in his place.
After the street race.
Yeah, after a street race where Brian kind of embarrassed himself by...
fries his car.
He blew the welds on...
fried piston
other
rings.
parts, right. And to talk about this movie, The Fast and the Furious, we brought
Which we had never seen before.
We've never seen it before, right? I know that me being on a Dom name basis with him would indicate that I've seen the movie before, but I have not.
Completely new to us.
We've welcomed our good friend Phil Vickers. Welcome,
Hello.
Phil.
Welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
You guys are welcome as well.
Yeah.
We're all welcome.
We appreciate it.
Glad to have you on, Phil. We go way back. All of us do, actually.
We do, yeah.
In fact, we go way back to, I think we started hanging out when The Fast and the Furious came out, 2001.
Yeah, it would have been, in college.
Wow.
Yep.
Phil, I don't want to oversell your knowledge of this. Are you a Fast and the Furious expert?
Yeah, some would say.
Yeah.
But no.
You've published 3 papers.
Yeah, 3 papers. They were only 20 pages apiece.
Yeah. So.
But no, I have seen all of the movies except for the newest release.
The Fate of the Furious.
Yeah.
You haven't seen that one yet.
I
Were you planning on it?
Yes, I will eventually. The people that I usually go to this with, unfortunately, they've moved across the country.
Do you usually try to make a point to see it in theaters, though?
For the last 3, we did.
Okay.
Before this, but up until then, no. I just saw them on DVD.
Okay.
So you'd say overall, fan of the franchise, right?
Yes. Yes.
You don't go to see 7 movies you hate, I guess.
I guess not.
No, you don't. You don't. A fan of the franchise. I would put that in quotations.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fan?
I think
Which
a lot
part
goes
of that
in.
would you put in?
I'd put-
franchise?
Well, each word individually in quotations with each word.
That makes sense.
I really want everyone to be able to take it however they feel.
Yeah. I like that about you. So that means you've got a history with the movie. Nate and I, we cannot keep saying enough. We have not seen this movie before. So what is your history with this movie in particular? Is it
The
all right
first
if we
one?
go into it? Yeah.
Yeah, let's go into let's do our thing where let's talk about our first time watching Fast and the Furious, which is really just
Just
you,
me.
Will.
Just
Yeah.
me watching.
Nate and I, yeah.
I
we've
should
done nothing.
say though, I've never seen this movie in its entirety. Now, I did watch scenes in your dorm room, Phil.
I believe it.
Back when we were in college, you had it on with your roommate, and I remember walking in
and walking out.
It had been in theaters in the summer, right?
Yes.
So I guess I had just completely missed the fact that it was even in the theaters, and so my first sort of knowledge of the movie at all was in your dorm room watching a few scenes of it and then leaving.
That's probably the best place to first see a Fast and Furious movie is a college dorm room. I would say that that's appropriate. Yeah, sure. I remember specifically watching it with a few friends in college just to see a car movie. That's the only reason we went to watch it.
Yeah,
and I thought it was fine. It was a fine action movie. I've actually come to appreciate it more as the series have progressed.
Now, just the first movie or just the whole series
Specifically the first movie, but because of
more.
the whole series. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I keep hearing more and more positive things from more and more people I trust about the series. I think that's part of why I wanted to watch this one, because it isn't something that people are like, why are they still making these? People are actually like...
And more people every time, I feel like.
Right.
It grows, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, worldwide, I guess it didn't just have like a ridiculous.
It set the record. Yeah, the
international,
biggest worldwide opening ever.
What was it? Do you remember?
It was a lot of money.
I don't know. Probably hundreds of dollars. We're talking
several, so somewhere upwards of, I'd say 1,300,000.
Yeah. Well, okay. For the record, it made exceeded $500 million in its opening weekend.
Wow,
that's insane.
That is insane.
That's a lot of money, as we mentioned many times.
Right.
But how much is it?
It's 500 million.
A lot of money.
That's a lot, yeah. So your initial viewing of this movie was not necessarily monumental.
No.
You saw it, you don't quite remember.
I didn't.
It wasn't like you were seeking it out. You just said... Nope. Do you typically like car-based action movies?
I like chase scenes.
You do?
I do. Okay. But I mean, more along the lines of like James Bond chase scenes. Sure. You know, classical chase movies. I always enjoyed those, but I was never like a gearhead or a car guy.
Yeah. Did you like Gone in 60 Seconds?
I did watch it more than once.
I only saw that movie when I was like, when it came out, and I was like 15, and it has forever remained like one of the best movies I've ever seen because of my memory of how much I loved. That movie, like how exciting it was.
That's how Con Air kind of was for me, because I just saw it at this time where that was like the best action movie I'd ever seen.
So the moral of the story is any 90s movie with Nick Cage, just don't watch it again.
Don't watch it again. Watch it when you're 15.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yep.
Never, and just you'll always have the memories. Okay, so
let me ask before we move into this. I was just curious for you, Ryan.
Oh,
did you intentionally kind of avoid this movie, or did it just never
I may
happen?
have.
Or
I mean,
why haven't you seen it? I guess.
I mean, it's. I don't know.
Any of them, I should say.
Yeah. I guess it was slightly intentional. I was probably 17 when this came out. Just beginning to get into my film elitism. So as a burgeoning snob, I couldn't see this movie.
Sure.
And then it took probably a good 8 years for that snobbery to start declining. Yeah. And at that point, the movie was already like, I don't know, the franchise was already 3 or 4 movies in. I wasn't like going to pick up on it. I don't know. It wasn't something that I was being like bullish about.
Well, and I should say, I guess that summer 2001, as far as action movies go, it was a bit of a doozy. I mean, that was when Pearl Harbor came out that summer,
which I did see.
The Mummy Returns, Jurassic Park 3.
I'm glad your snobbery.
I didn't see that.
Goes to the Mummy.
No, here's
saying,
what,
it's not like blockbuster action movies were in a really solid spot at that moment. This is pre-Marvel Universe.
Here's the thing. I had seen Pearl Harbor and The Mummy Returns. I was not ready for I was done.
You were spent. Yeah.
Yeah. Those were not exactly getting me excited for further blockbustering.
Yeah. Oh, Rush Hour 2, Tomb Raider. Boy.
A lot of subpar action movies that year.
Yeah, really. They're cranking them out. Yeah.
No wonder the Fast and the Furious kind of stood out. It's
from that pack.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Did you purposefully avoid it?
No, I mean, like I said, I don't even. I think it's because you look at all those other movies I listed; they all seemed at the time so much bigger. Actually, Fast and the Furious would have been one of the more under the radar action movies out of those. If you think
Rush
about
Hour
it.
2 is like
Huge. Yeah.
Well, so is the Mummy Returns.
Yeah.
And Pearl Harbor. Yeah, and I think for me, I had seen a lot of those movies that we just listed off too, and Fast and Furious wasn't one of them. I don't think I really hardly even heard of it. And then when I saw it in your dorm room, Phil, I think I was like, I think I got the gist of this. And then like I was kind of like, I could take or leave it. I guess it wasn't like I was.
It's mainly just because it didn't have Brendan Fraser in it, is why you're like, you know what? I
At
can't
that
watch
point in
this.
Nate's life, yeah.
It's no Monkey Bone.
I'm gonna go watch Monkey Bone because that has Chris Kattan as well.
But yeah, and then after that, it's kind of like they just kept coming out, and I was like, okay, something must be in this that's worth
I gotta say,
and
calling the second one Too Fast, Too Furious kind of turned me off as well.
Yeah.
Again,
Because they didn't say TOO.
I think it has to be with. I mean, with yeah.
Like,
that was it.
What are we supposed to think? Is this a sequel, or are they actually saying they're going too
it's
fast?
excessive. Right.
I mean, I think as they kept going on, I was like, well, I'm not going to go in now. I mean, I have no idea what's going on.
Absolutely. I feel like you'd lose a lot of the character arc. Yeah.
So, anyways, okay, I wanted to just ask if there was a reason you were intentionally avoiding
not
it.
really. I mean, maybe for a time there was, but no.
But we're stalling. We
are. So, Phil,
let's get into what we think now as we've rewatched this.
Well, would you have rated it? What would you have rated it early on?
Oh, I mean, if we're going out of 5,
5 stars, yeah,
2.5 probably.
Okay,
but still liked it.
I enjoyed watching it.
It was.
I know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's. I think that is why I am able to enjoy these movies, is because I am 100% aware of what they are.
Uh-huh.
I think even more so than they're aware of themselves sometimes.
Yeah. And I think that's why you're here. Like that's why we wanted to have you on. So, do you have a new rating? Like,
yeah, I mean, actually, upon rewatching and also having the more recent movies and the more recent memory, I actually think that this one is stronger than some of the more recent ones.
Really?
Yeah, I'd probably move it up to a 3.
Whoa!
Yeah, I know I'm going crazy here, but sometimes you just gotta
calm down.
High octane,
a high octane rating.
But yeah, I mean, I would probably move it up to a 3 as far as I some of it's nostalgia, but most of it is I have my reasons. We'll go into those in a little bit. But yeah.
Okay. Nate?
It's not a great movie, but I'm going to give it a 3 too, actually. Okay. I'm going to say we do this every time, I feel like, but I'm just going to sort of do the Roger Ebert thing, because it just seems like Roger Ebert's take was essentially my take, which was when Roger Ebert reviewed it, he said, quote, "Not a great movie, but it delivers what it promises to deliver and knows that a chase scene is supposed to be about something more than special effects." Yeah, right. I mean, that's about where I end it. So, I mean, fine car chase movie, still, really, really stupid dialogue, some really, really stupid plot elements, which I'm sure we'll get into. But overall, I don't know.
Okay.
I give it 3.
I mean, I feel like I'm with you guys, but I feel like I maybe liked less about it than maybe you did.
Sure.
So maybe just for being different and being elitist still. Going back to 2001.
We'd expect no less.
Yeah, you got a rep.
I'm gonna give it a 2.
Okay.
Ooh, 2 stars. Yeah,
just 2.
But I don't think that doesn't mean I won't get convinced or caught up in your excitement for this movie.
Yeah, my dull excitement, my 3-star excitement.
Yeah.
That 3-star, that glowing 3-star restaurant we all love eating at.
So do we want to start with what we know is bad about it, or do we want to extol its virtues? I think it'd be more fun to go with what's bad about it.
Okay.
Well, they almost go hand in hand, though.
Okay.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe you should expound on what you just said.
Well,
I'm sure it's in one of your research papers.
Yeah, it's in one of the. You can look at them at The Fastest and the Furiousest. No, I mean, essentially, I look at these movies as nothing more than a fantasy movie in a race car setting. It has all the tropes. It's essentially a hero movie where the guy has to go and infiltrate and then finds out that the bad guys aren't so bad after all.
Well, it's Point Break in cars.
With cars, yeah.
All right, I want to talk about some of the things. The first thing is how 2001 this movie is.
Yes.
And that was some great stuff, but it was also horrifying to see what 2001 was really like, because this movie could not be more of the moment.
Oh, sure.
The styling, like everything is
the Limp Bizkit.
I knew you were going to mention that. Yeah. The Paul Walker's hair, I think, is the most 2001 thing of the whole movie.
I think that this movie was probably out of date by the time it left theaters, as far as its fashion and things like that. But one thing that I loved, just like little details, like they were stealing TV VCR combos.
Yes.
Like some of that top of the line technology. Right. There was something kind of fun about seeing all that again, which, I mean, maybe isn't even a virtue of the movie. Because
and I know
something I was doing at the time. But
this, even with the special effects, and one of the things I do appreciate is that there's not a ton of CGI in this movie. It's very real. Mm-hmm. But where there is the CGI with like the zooming into the engine, was like some really cutting edge stuff at the time. It just seems like really cheesy opening credit type stuff now.
But at the time, though, I remember how cool that was, because they used that in a bunch of action movies. They started using that.
Yeah, it was sort of a thing that was copied, I think.
I mean, that was something that was like neither something I liked or didn't like about it. So maybe we can get into more specific. Let's talk about the things that this movie could do better.
The things that can do better, they are very numerous. You can name them. I mean, they're there. Specifically, obviously, some dialogue choices. Like some of Vin Diesel's
all dialogue choices.
But what I guess because I'm looking at this within the context of the Fast and Furious movies, it almost becomes something like you have that uncle that makes the stupid jokes when you go home.
Sure.
When you're a kid, they're funny. When you're a teenager, they're embarrassing, and then when you're an adult, you just appreciate them for what they are. And that's kind of how I feel.
It's almost got its own vocabulary now as a franchise.
It really does, actually. It has there's plenty of lines that people say from this movie, and they have to know when they write them that they're silly, they're cheesy, but that's part of the appeal, I'm not going there for in-depth Shakespearean.
So what's wrong, Brian?
Nothing, man, I'm fine.
Come on. Obviously something's off.
Look, I have my good days and I have my bad days just like anybody else.
Brian, don't lose that cool of yours. That's your meal ticket.
My meal ticket? Well, I can't pay for my own shrimp.
I got the shrimp.
No, see, that's one thing about me, Dom. You don't understand. I don't need handouts. I don't take handouts. I earn my way every step. I just gotta make a little something extra on the side like you.
What do you mean like me? What's that supposed to mean?
That's what I mean.
What does that mean, like me?
I'm not stupid, all right? I know that there's no way in hell you paid for all that shit you got under the hood of... I know there's no way in hell that you paid for all that shit that's under the hood of those cars by doing tune-ups and selling groceries.
Well, let's just say, aside from perhaps the hero element of it, the plot in general of this movie is so ridiculously kind of underwhelming in a sense, and I don't mean that in like an elitist way. I mean the fact that like it's supposed to hinge on Paul Walker's character Brian as a cop trying to figure out who's taking this stuff, and it sort of like makes you think it's going to be this gang, Johnny Tram and his gang for a while, and you're going with it, but the whole time you're supposed to be questioning, is it really Dom and his
well, you
crew?
Don't know because they're wearing helmets,
and then it just kind of is like, it is okay, yeah,
and
great,
he didn't
shrug.
He didn't know. The whole time.
Yeah, he's a pretty bad cop, by the way. Can we just admit that?
And so's their whole organization.
Yeah.
Like they're like, we're gonna go in.
He's like,
just say yes.
Don't do it. It's like, well, no. I think you better go anyway, but I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's true.
There couldn't have been a little bit of like a twist or something to make you think a little bit, I guess. I mean, like I kept thinking like, it can't be that simple. It can't be that simple that it's just Vin Diesel and it's just them. And I'm like, oh, it is that simple. Like they thought it was them.
It was them.
It was them.
But that's actually part of that's actually one of the things currently mentioned like most often when people are watching the later movies, right? They're wondering how these guys who are nothing more than like hijackers.
Yeah.
They're
like super spies now.
Now they're international super spies. Like everyone's like, how did Dom go from like running a crappy mechanic shop and stealing DVD players to being like James Bond?
Yeah.
But that's, you know what I mean? Like I said, I think it's scaled with budget. But like,
Yeah.
Well, and I think, okay, so I was trying to, I did do quite a bit of reading up on the franchise itself and kind of where it goes.
You're trying to keep it to the, yeah.
Well, and I was trying to figure out, okay, like if I did want to keep going, what actually happens here? You know, like what goes forward? And, you know, if the movies were really just like the Fast and the Furious, the first movie, I can't see making 8 of those. I'm like, it must go somewhere sort of bigger. And my understanding is it actually, I think it was around maybe like the 4th movie or so, when the gang is kind of back. Because let's maybe talk about this a little bit. So Too Fast, Too Furious, there actually is no Vin Diesel. He's not there.
Really?
It's mainly a Paul Walker
movie. I think he's got like a cameo.
Oh, gosh.
And I think it's like the worst movie of all of them is what I was kind of... and John Singleton directed, though.
But it is it is the first movie, though, with 2 of the recurring characters later.
Ludacris
and...
Tyrese
character.
Yep.
Ava Mendes is in it, too, I guess.
Right? But she's not... She doesn't continue through the whole series.
And then Tokyo Drift is like nothing else. Like, that's just... There's like one character that comes back.
One character, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So now you're on to movie 3 already.
And that's actually a pretty bad movie. I would say Tokyo Drift has the main character they have is, in my opinion, he's probably the weakest actor, which is saying something considering the series. But he really is just, there's nothing.
And that's
redeeming.
What's Lucas Black?
Yes,
yeah, the Lucas Black character.
I mean, I can't speak to his other movies, but I just know in that movie, it's really
tough. So what I was getting at though is I guess in Fast and Furious, which is the 4th movie, the gang's all back. That's when actually when Vin Diesel comes back, and he's got top billing then in that movie. So something must have happened contractually or something, because Paul Walker is then second billed, and then it kind of becomes a Vin Diesel action franchise. I think at that point. But really, what from my understanding is that from then on, they're more like heist movies.
It is. Yep, 100%.
So they kind of change completely as far as like what you're really watching it for. Although the cars are definitely still there. So then it made me actually think I might want to keep going with this. I might just skip 2 and 3 and just go straight into 4.
It becomes more about this group of people who continue through the rest of the series.
Yeah.
And it's a focus on those characters as opposed to stopping bad things from happening, or, you know, it's not even a focus on the heist. It's a focus on these characters doing things.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. And it looks like in The Fate of Furious, Dom turns his back on the family.
And if you know anything about Dom,
he wouldn't.
Family is the most important thing.
You learned that in the first movie.
Absolutely. I mean, that is... Core. I believe he maybe even says that.
Multiple times.
That's how you know he cares about it.
Throughout every
because
movie.
You don't know anything about a character in this movie unless they say it about themselves.
Well, how else are you supposed to learn about people?
I don't know. It's certainly not through their acting.
Yeah.
Which... Paul Walker...
Are we going there?
He was worse than I thought he would be. He was more wooden than I thought he would be, and I thought he would be very wooden.
Pretty bad, yeah.
Maybe you just don't know a lot of guys with that haircut.
It's true. Maybe he was really... Yeah, that's true. It felt like most of his lines were re-recorded. Like, they're not quite matching up.
Yeah.
I noticed that with multiple characters, though.
Yeah. I mean, when you get all those engines revving, how are you going to talk above that?
Paul Walker was really supposed to carry this movie.
Yeah, it was like a Paul Walker
vehicle.
Vehicle.
Oh.
I believe the Paul Walker-Vin Diesel friendship in real life, but I believe that they had to be friends in real life for them to seem like friends on screen, because I don't think Paul Walker could fake anything.
Yeah. But I also don't think the movie demands that they act the crap out of it. I believe.
No, but here's where that kind of the movie suffered for that.
Sure.
There was never any tension between them. From the moment they looked at each other, you knew they were in love.
Mm-hmm.
And
you're talking about the Dom character and the Brian character.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I didn't know, because he actually he says he loves the sister. So
no, I know.
You would hope that.
Well, here's the thing about that.
Yeah,
their date is all. Tell me about your brother.
Yeah,
so I don't know. I mean, I guess you guys are not I don't know. No. Maybe it's just not even worth saying what's bad about this movie, because of course it is, but it's not like I wasn't sitting there going like, ugh, this movie, it's just pulling me right out.
Yeah.
There were just things about it that I knew were going to be bad, and some things were worse than I expected.
Well, I even remember sitting there going, how do these guys not get pulled over all the time? Not because of how fast they drive, but because they always drive in formation down very wide streets.
This is a 2-lane road.
And there's like 5 cars pulling up in like a flying ducks formation, like everywhere they go. I'm like, okay, these guys, they must have like parked in an alley so that they could get in formation just to drive up to this guy's house. Right. Like, so yeah, there are absolutely just completely silly.
And how about the fact that, okay, so they race and Paul Walker or Brian destroys his car.
They're the same person.
Yeah.
Right?
With the Nas.
With the Nas.
The Nas, yeah.
And it's pretty clear because Vin Diesel basically talks about all the things that the engine went through.
And then another character opens the hood and says,
it's smoking,
confirms it.
Yeah. And then the cops come and everyone scatters and Vin Diesel's running and everyone runs away. And then Paul Walker pulls up in the same car and picks him up.
I don't think it was undrivable. I think you could
he just
burn out the Nas system and still be able to drive it.
You think it was drivable? I was like, didn't he just fry his car?
It looks drivable.
Yeah, but my question more than is the car drivable is how did he know where Vin Diesel is? Because Vin Diesel took off in his car and then parked in a parking garage and then started trying to walk away. So I'm like, wait,
that's true.
Well, maybe in that moment he really was a good cop. Like he could figure out
maybe
anything.
if anybody can track somebody.
He got some clues.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it either calls into question his motive, and he should not be praised for that action because he stumbled upon him.
Yeah,
or he's inordinately good at tracking people.
There's just stuff like that did kind of bug me, where it's like, this is really stupid, but this is like beyond stupid, like just because this is the type of movie it is. This is stupid because like you didn't want to think about it, and it's not even that hard to think about. It's like you just rewrite a little bit. Like for instance,
maybe he sees
and even like
just have one shot where you can see him pulling into the parking garage.
Maybe it was there, it got cut.
And they had to run away from the cops anyway. So it's like, well, why did you even get out of your car if you were just going to have a car chase with the police anyway with a different guy driving, and you're the guy who just won the race? Like, it doesn't make sense.
You're the last person in the world I expected to show up.
Yeah, well, I thought if I got in your good graces, you might let me keep my car.
You are my good graces, but you ain't keeping your car. You drive like you've done this before. What are you, a wheelman?
No.
You boost cars?
No, never.
Ever done time?
A couple of overnighters, no big deal.
What about the 2 years in juvie for boosting cars?
In general, this movie is doing a pretty convincing job of making these people look kind of cool to me. But I see these kind of cars on 94 going north, weaving in and out, and I'm always like, those reckless little bastards are going to hurt somebody.
Oh, you're real cool. Real cool.
One of the questions that I was kind of asking myself is, for all the reasons you just mentioned and all the other things that we said, a lot of this movie seems like it would be the kind of movie that would be one of those like, direct to DVD or like movies that like don't get, first of all, mainstream theatrical release. Second of all, then get huge buzz and get huge franchises out of them. And I'm kind of like, well, so then what? We have to admit there was something magnetic about this movie, and what was it? And I think part of it, and obviously the cars are cool, and it was a new scene that really hadn't been covered. We've obviously had car movies, but we haven't really covered like street racing of that type in a movie, I don't think, up until that point. And it was a new scene.
Nothing that was
cool.
major. Yeah, nothing that was major.
And then the second thing, though, I do think, even with Paul Walker being as terrible of an actor as he is, I'm going to go back to me watching it in your dorm room and just seeing the few scenes. I had not heard of this movie, but just watching the actors on screen, I felt like I should know who they are as actors. Mm-hmm. Like, whether it was the way they were filmed, the way they carried themselves, they seemed like they were shot as big stars. Mm-hmm. And they really weren't at the time at all. Vin Diesel had been he was like the voice of the Iron Giant.
Had he done Triple X before that?
No,
that's after.
He had done Pitch Black.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, we're still talking very small time actor. Same thing really with Paul Walker. Same thing with Michelle Rodriguez. These were not big name actors, but they felt like they should be when you watched them on screen. Now, I don't know if that's a testament to the director and the way it's shot, or if it's a testament to them. We're not saying they're good actors, but do they carry themselves in a way that's sort of
attractive?
Starish? Yeah. That makes this movie seem
more important,
bigger and more important than it really is.
I understand your comment as far as that. Does it seem like a movie that would go direct to DVD? I believe honestly that's more Well, I guess I don't. My question, I guess, for you then would be: is that just because movies nowadays the CGI is so much better, the graphics are so much better? You know what I mean? Like,
No,
the quality.
I'm
of the
almost
action
entirely talking about like the script and
Okay.
like the because I see the CGI, the little bit of it that it was for what it is. You know, it doesn't feel like a low budget movie. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying low budget.
Okay.
I'm just saying like it's got a very sort of schlocky genre type quality to it, like a almost B movie kind of quality to it, which that would be like your definition of a B movie. Like,
well, but I mean, you could even go back the other way and say, think about the action movies from the 80s that you saw.
Right.
And I would say that this is actually a step up, even in script writing. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger, all of his one-liners and stuff, that's what this is. This is a step up from the 80s.
Yeah.
This is a step up from Bloodsport. I mean, but like every Arnold Schwarzenegger movie from the 80s, every Jean-Claude Van Damme, Steven Seagal, like the action movies.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the thing I think that
Chuck Norris movies.
Chuck Norris especially. Yeah. The dialogue has never been a focus, I don't think. That's what I'm saying.
I understand that. I don't even necessarily mean, I don't know. I just mean
Better
like
plotting.
the plotting, the the transitions and everything. It is
very clunky.
It's a clunky movie. So
and dumb. So dumb. Just a dumb movie. It's just I don't think we've said that yet. It's just dumb.
It's not. It doesn't. But it also doesn't want you. It doesn't want you to have to.
No,
think
it does.
all.
Right.
They literally want you to put a feed bag of popcorn on your face, and
just
depends on, and you can just enjoy it.
Fall asleep, whatever.
Yeah.
It's fine. Did you pay? Good.
it feels like exactly what it was, which was essentially the director Rob Cohen read an article that he thought was cool,
based on a true story. This movie,
called Racer X,
adapted
by Ken Lee.
screenplay,
and brought it up to the studio and said, "I want to make a movie about this thing," and they said, "Sure." This is a studio businessman making a movie about a thing that he thought would sell.
And it definitely feels like that.
Yeah. I watched some of the special features on this DVD that I watched because they showed how they did some of the car stuff, which was really pretty cool, actually.
That would be cool.
But, you've watched him talk in these DVD. I mean, he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt. He's exactly what you would picture of a guy who thinks this is super cool and just wants to make a lot of money off of it,
Okay.
That's what Hawaiian shirts say to me, by the way.
The guy thinks he's super cool.
I think Weird Al would have to have a talk with you about that.
Well, okay. Then I want to talk about some things that maybe not are like legitimately problematic, but things that I was sort of like race in this movie. Mm-hmm. People are grouped by race. We had an email from a listener, Eric, who said, is this movie whitewashing? Because he said there's many people of color, yet the hero has blonde hair and blue eyes. And he said, also, this movie contains the phrase race wars without batting an eye.
It's a double entendre.
It seems like it. And
I want to slap you in the face with it.
Right. And okay, fine. Race wars. Maybe you just weren't thinking about it. But then, like I said, every team is grouped by race.
But I don't think they're teams. I think they're
gangs.
Alluding to the fact that they're actual gangs. And if you are talking about gang culture, well, that makes sense.
Okay, but Mia says specifically at the dinner where Brian only wants to talk about Dom, it's not a gang, it's a team.
Well, they're a team. Just like motorcycle gangs are motorcycle clubs.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like, semantics.
But Dom's gang is not, I mean, that's a diverse gang, right?
Well,
it's not all white.
Sort of.
It's white and acceptably Hispanic.
Supposed
for action movies.
And whatever
Vin
Diesel
Diesel's supposed
is.
to be. Yeah.
Because from my understanding is that for the people who have really stuck with the franchise, what I find interesting about that comment is that when you talk to even critics who really champion this franchise, they talk about its diversity as one of its features.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to hear the franchise goes in directions, so to speak.
No, I understand, yeah.
But as it is, it's just they threw everything at the wall and they were seeing what stuck, and then it turns out they kind of started sorting some things out, and instead of just more racing and random characters, they kind of started forming more characters and their relationships, right? To a certain extent.
It's an action movie first and foremost.
Yeah.
And then they fill that out with three things typically. Races, barbecues,
And product placement.
and
Coronas specifically.
at some point there will be a race where there is women in skimpy clothing.
Okay.
And as the Michelle Rodriguez character so nicely puts it, I smell skanks. Like that becomes a thing. Like
that she smells skanks.
Skanky ladies.
Well, yeah, skanky ladies at car races is apparently a staple.
Yeah. Well, I was every scene. The establishing shot is women dancing on something.
That has not stopped.
Okay.
That does not stop
It's
through
a
the whole
motif.
series. It really
it's a
continues.
motif.
Well, but here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
My understanding of those race scenes in at least this movie was that they were pretty much just getting people who are actually part of the scene together and saying, do what you do.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is
for the movie.
Really what happens?
I guess that was my understanding. I've read it both in an article that was talking about the movie and in the special features where they talk about how they did these scenes.
Not like, what do you wish would happen? And they were asking a 13-year-old boy.
That these were people part of the scene. Like these were actual racers who showed up and actual people who come to the scene. And I thought that was actually something that I wouldn't have known about the movie, but that now that I know it, is kind of an interesting, almost documentary thing about it. Like it was this thing that wasn't really known about until this little article.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, but that is an aspect
And
of
it's a
just
whole
the culture.
the whole street racing thing. I can't say I was like really into it afterwards, but what I do find interesting about this type of racing that I think makes it fascinating to probably a more broad audience than maybe like a NASCAR movie.
Yeah.
And this is talked about. I actually read the Racer X article that this is based off of. It talks about this being a very like a meritocracy, like because it's not these really expensive cars that people have to, be privileged to have. These are people taking their Asian import cars, these really like my Honda Civic that I have.
Right.
You put a few $1,000s into it and you know what you're doing. You can like make it look really cool and ride up against the best if you know how to drive. I'll read a line this is from Racer X, from the article that was in Vice, May 1998, that the movie's based off of, written by Ken Lee. It said, young men have been fascinated with tweaking and tuning big block Chevys and Mustangs since the days of Rebel Without a Cause, but the new guys wouldn't be caught dead driving the gaudy, muscular beasts of yesteryear. Instead, they're tricking out low-buck Japanese imports like Honda Civics and Acura Integras and tattooing them like skateboards and New Speed and Gretty car parts stickers. By stroking the engine, adding a supercharger, and hitting the juice, nitrous oxide, a gaseous liquid once used to boost bomber planes in World War II, they can smoke the herb in the IROC at the stoplight, and to do it with a puny 4-cylinder rice burner that your mom would drive is downright arrogant. Like, there's just something kind of cool and different about that type of racing movie.
Did you guys never have like people like like the gearheads and stuff from your time? Did they not hang out in parking lots with their cars and like show each other their cars?
Yeah, that happened at the 50s McDonald's in the town
They
up
didn't,
here, but they would just show them.
They didn't like have a DJ.
Well, no.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but there is that. What I'm saying is there is a
for girls to
culture
dance
around
on.
those where
Yeah,
they
definitely.
will just show up in a random place and
just stand outside their car.
and talk to each other about their cars and stuff.
Yeah.
So that is, I mean, like when those guys are walking up to him. Like when Paul Walker goes to the races, right?
Yeah,
they want to see what's under his car. They actually are interested in the I think that those aspects are accurate.
Yeah,
right.
If that's the truth,
that's fine.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with those scenes. Those scenes kind of hold together pretty well. The dialogue's stupid, but like,
well, okay, so maybe we should.
I'll say everything else about it. Like this movie's just a pure adolescent fantasy, which
not just it's just a pure fantasy because there's still many adult men, not myself necessarily, but there are many adults that this would still be their dream to get into a souped up car and race down a street. Like that's
I guess I mean, it may be an adult dream, but it's still an adolescent one. But I guess by me calling it an adolescent dream, I'm it's a value judgment, and I'm saying that there's something wrong with it. I guess essentially, if I'm saying that. So I guess my question is: is there something wrong with it? I go back and forth between thinking too much about this movie and just letting it be what it is.
Well, let me ask
Which
you
obviously
this.
I'm going to do. I'm not going to go back and edit it.
Sure. Well, let me ask you this though, because I think let's even take another movie that you could also call sort of an adolescent or male type fantasy that this would get. We've already kind of compared it to Point Break.
Yep.
I remember you recently watched Point Break, and you actually said you liked it. So what was different? I guess that's another approach to this. Is let's take another movie that's kind of doing the same type of thing. Why is that one a better one than this one?
I think the biggest difference. How much objectification of women is there in Point Break?
Not a ton.
Standard.
Standard amount for
Actually,
a
I
Keanu
don't think
Reeves
there's
vehicle.
much at all.
No, I mean he's got his girlfriend, And I mean, I think I really think that that's a large part of what bugs me about this movie. That like women are at one point a prize. They're like just backdrop. Like, you know, that is how they choose to transition. And like,
well, women are one or the other. They're either trophies,
sure,
or they're Michelle Rodriguez and
or
Mia.
They're strong. Yeah, right. And I think that's probably the biggest issue I have with it. But I think that Point Break, there's genuinely a question as to how Keanu Reeves is going to handle things. And whatever he picks, it's like...
Probably going to say, whoa.
Yeah. he's probably going to stare vacantly is how he's going to handle it. But which side of the screen is he going to stare at is the real question.
That is
But I mean,
like,
question. So his relationship with Patrick Swayze, like, it's pretty clearly telegraphed. Like, yeah, he's very clearly drawn to Patrick Swayze. And the movie, though, still has the question, is he going to turn him in? If he does, what's going to happen to their relationship? If he doesn't, how is that going to pan out? Like,
sure.
there are genuine questions. And this movie could have raised the same questions and just is like, you know what, forget it.
Yeah, they were lazy.
We're just going to do what we're going to do.
The cop aspect was pretty lazy.
Yeah, it was pointless almost. Like, it would have been as good to just be a guy who really wanted to get into the scene.
Or a journalist.
Yeah.
He's writing an article.
Right.
About
and he
these
gets caught up.
guys.
That's actually a lot better.
Yeah.
Got an idea. Point Break, I really don't remember what his relationship with his supervisors was. But in this movie, I'm like, he's got like a ridiculously low level of accountability. And like,
well, they're also pretty bad cops as well.
everybody,
like, they just make really stupid decisions.
Yeah.
Lab says the skid marks came back the same. Mashimoto ZX tires. So we know that it's somebody in the street racing world.
We don't make this case soon, the truckers will take matters into their own hands. I tell them we're close. You gonna make me a liar?
Look, what do we know? We all know this world revolves around Toretto, right? I'm not saying that he's necessarily the one that's popping these trucks, but I can guarantee the both of you that he knows who is. It's just a matter of time until I win his
You want
coffee.
time? Find the magazine. We don't have time. Just get me something I can use.
And so, I mean, whatever. It's never fruitful to say this movie is not a different movie, you know?
Yeah.
But like, it is why it's 2 stars for me, because
there's too many just shrugs in it.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
They won't care.
You get it.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Now, what they're saying they don't care is they just really want to see the car chases. Do you think those hold up? Did you enjoy? Were they well done?
Well, yes. For 4 cars driving straight for 0.25 miles, they made it a lot more exciting than they probably are.
Well, that was one of the chases. I
know.
Yeah, because that was actually one of the things that struck me upon
they had
rewatching.
There are a few of those. There are a few quarter-mile races in the movie. It's not just one. But yes. Everything else, they did do a really great job. And people like jumping from a car to a truck.
Well, just the practical effects, actually. And that's what I was going to compare it to, because really the modern movie...
You're going to go Mad Max?
Well, exactly. No, but it really did.
Yeah.
Like, anytime you can use the practical effects, I will say this though, I don't know if it's true or not, but I believe as the movies progress, they actually do get more ridiculous and kind of have to move away from some of the practical effects, obviously, because that's the appeal of this movie to me, was that there was a lot of practical effects. Surprisingly, I didn't even remember there being like this many.
Yeah, I was like thinking these were incredibly choreographed scenes, because that is a lot of cars, a lot of moving parts that they did terrifically with. Yeah.
The movies do get more outlandish, and they do have to resort to CGI a little bit more later on. But I was reading Todd Vanderwerf article in Vox going through all the different Fast and Furious movies and defending them pretty much, and saying that even throughout, whenever possible, they still stick to just practical effects, real cars crashing. When you see a car crash, you are seeing the real thing, you know, even in the later movies when it gets more and more ridiculous.
Which I think are things that because so many things nowadays do use CGI for every little drop, because it's cheaper than setting up a practical effect a lot of times, especially when you're talking about whole cars and things. I think that because we're used to that, when it's practical effects, it does seem more like you look at it and go, "Oh, that actually seems real." I'm not sure why, and then you realize it is the practical effects.
Feels different.
It does feel different,
and that is really what so many people were talking about with Fury Road.
Yeah,
and that I mean, Fury Road is just it sets the bar so high.
You
know, you really can't. You almost can't compare them, even though they're both car movies. But you know, the franchise should get some credit, though. You know, for really kind of having that all along. And I don't know how much actually they've sort of progressed as far as what film has been able to do with those practical effects. And I'm sure they've sort of invented some techniques and things that hadn't been done before that maybe Fury Road even copied. I don't really know. You know.
This is also a culture, though, if I may. Like, I mean, like as far as movies go, this is a culture that I am not in at all. I've never been a car guy, really. I feel like if you had grown up being someone who worked on cars, this movie would even be, there'd be other things to draw you to this movie. Yeah.
And it's kind of a to its credit that you don't have to be a gearhead to at least understand, well, there's some jargon there, but I get the idea,
I don't know if Vin Diesel understood the jargon he was saying when he was saying it.
You just had to work it out phonetically. Like.
I mean, the guy played D&D, guys. I mean, he's more like me than he is.
Obviously, this movie is not just for gearheads because, I mean, it's a huge... And it's obviously not just for 15-year-olds because you don't make $500 million in a weekend without several adults, a handful of adults going to see this movie. Why are there movies like this? Like, what itch is it scratching? I mean, is that question even too...
It's comfort
thinking
food.
Too much.
No, it's comfort food.
Right.
I think that, but I think if you try to think of it, when you dissect it, yes, it's obviously imperfect. But sometimes you want to just go eat horrible crap from Taco Bell.
I got you. But what itch is that scratching? Like, what...
the itch for me that these movies scratch. I know what I'm going to go see is I'm going to go see cool car races in a heist environment. It's essentially entertainment light.
Well, you're a James Bond fan. What itch is that
I
scratching?
know. So
like what's that doing it for? What's Marvel doing for you? Other than, I mean, Marvel might be easier to outline because it's dealing with a lot of heavy themes and things, and you could make a case.
And because I read comic books, like there's kind of a lot going into that.
Yeah.
Like,
but to me, like one of the things Todd Vanderwerf called it was a glorious soap opera with motor oil pumping through a heart measured in horsepower, is how he put it. But I mean, it is a good question because there is something that's, you can't even really say it's uniquely American because this is making international box office.
I don't know if this is just catharsis. Like, are people? If it's catharsis, is it just like you're not going to do any of this in your day-to-day life, and you watch somebody do it, and that's like all you'll need. I feel like. Maybe just at 32, those desires don't ring as true as they did when I was 15. I do and have historically liked James Bond, but even now I'll watch some James Bond. I'm like, okay.
Part of it, I think, goes to, it's almost a very visceral sort of movie thing of like, I want to see stuff on screen I can't see in real life. And that's where the practical effects really do come in. Like it's going back to like early film days. I want to watch a film. I want to watch a train come at me, like the early days where
this movie has that,
where people would be scared because they had never seen that before.
But you'd even touched on it earlier when you had spoken about how the movie does a good job convincing you that these people are cool.
Right.
Right. So if you even simplify it even further, then what specifically are you getting out of this movie? I mean, when I go see this movie, I know that the good guys are going to win. First off, right? You know that they're going to be cool. You know there's going to be a cool soundtrack. You know what I mean? Like it's
right, let's not push it.
Okay, listen. I had a Limp Bizkit album probably around that time, so I can't be too hard on the fact that they use Rolling in the soundtrack.
Yeah, I mean, I get it because there are movies. So I was trying to figure out what are the movies where I switch off my brain and I just watch it. Because I like I said, I saw Gone in 60 Seconds when I was young and I really liked it, and I don't regret liking it. Maybe this movie would have excited me the same way. Like I would have been like, yeah, that's awesome. I want to go race cars. And if that's what the movie's for, is that enough to justify existence? Is that okay if that's enough?
It's enough to make a 3-star movie. You know what I mean? Like
The reason it's 3 stars is because they were honest about what they were making.
Yeah.
We're making a movie for you to just come and just bug out to for a few hours. Like we're not trying to change.
Yeah.
I don't even think when they made it, I don't even think they thought it was going to be huge.
Right.
I think that they hoped that it would be popular in the theater. But do you think, I mean,
it was a $38 million budget. It wasn't like they threw all their money at it.
It wasn't Waterworld.
It was a safe bet, I think, for the studio. Like we don't got to throw a ton into this, and there's probably going to be an audience for it. We'll get some names that, are up and coming.
Coming off that She's All That hype.
Yeah. That just shows his versatility. He can play the hero.
That's true.
He can play the villain.
We didn't even talk about She's All That enough.
Good point.
I guess sometimes people just need to see like hot dudes seducing hot chicks, and they're like awesome cars, becoming bros. The music's loud, the colors are bright. The
that's the thing,
emotions are like simple, and it's just that's fine.
It's almost like enjoyment on a primal level. You have to shut off the brain. It's more like I'm watching this movie for my subconscious. Like I'm watching this movie.
So it could just be some diodes that you could just put on your head. And
so, how are we feeling? I feel like maybe mutual understanding on one corner of this triangle.
I'm not
maybe best buds.
It doesn't bug me
along
that you don't like that you don't like, and
I'm perfectly fine with you having a 2-star rating. On
okay.
This.
Would you give any other Fast and Furious movie a chance?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You
would.
Like yeah.
You'd be willing to say
because
like
it was so dumb, but like you said.
I mean, I just kind of enjoyed myself
I was with it.
Yeah,
I was watching it.
Yeah.
I was not necessarily like distracted. I was distracted by what was happening in it, but I was still watching it. I would probably skip Too Fast, Too Furious and Tokyo Drift.
Yeah, that's my plan actually.
Okay.
As I think I'm going to jump straight to 4 and see how it goes.
I don't disagree with anything anybody said.
Yeah, no, I think mutual understanding is a good place to leave it. Is anybody going to change their star rating at all?
Nope.
No.
I think a solid number 2 is a really good way to sum up Fast and the Furious.
Let's switch gears.
Richard Gears.
That's switching gears.
Definitely. Different gears. Let's go into different gears and talk about our next episode of Can We Still Be Friends? Yeah, but before we move on to our next episode, we do want to thank you, Phil, for coming on the show and showing us how to be fast and furious.
Yeah. I'm an expert. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, guys.
It was a wonder to watch you be fast and furious.
I've never seen anything so fast or furious.
Well,
it's almost too fast and too furious.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah. We need to have you back sometime because you bring a lot of joy, Phil.
I do. Sacks of joy.
Yeah. We should still talk about what we're going to do next episode. And remind me again what our connections are.
With their next episode?
Yeah.
All right, so we're looking at this. We're doing anniversaries. We're looking at what has come out in the past. Movies. We're looking at 1977, but we're not looking at Star Wars.
No.
But we are looking at 40 years ago.
To the stars.
That's true. We were just talking about how we had never really done much sci-fi.
Or any.
True.
That's not much.
Episodes. Yeah.
None is
right.
not much.
I would say that's kind of saying the same thing using slightly different language.
Sure.
But we're looking at movies from 1977 that fit sci-fi and that are not Star Wars. I mean, you can introduce this. What are we going? We're going to
be watching Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah, Spielberg.
We did Hook. We did, but I feel like Hook is not, for many people, classic Spielberg.
You take that back.
Hook is not your E.T.
Right.
Your Jaws.
Right.
Hook notwithstanding. We've never done a Spielberg movie.
Yeah, and as Phil was saying as we were talking about doing this, that we really have never gotten our Richard Dry fix.
That's true.
So we haven't really talked about Richard Dry fix.
I'm glad you brought that on mic because it needed to be. And I'm excited to watch it. I haven't seen it in a while. You haven't seen it since you were a kid.
I was like 10 years old when I saw it.
Yeah.
And it kind of freaked me out, although I don't really think it's the kind of movie that is supposed to freak you out.
I don't believe so.
So I don't know. It's going to be a totally different experience for me this time. And I'm excited to watch it.
Should be fun.
So we had always encourage you to watch the movies that we're going to be doing with us. And we also encourage you to let us know what you think of the movie we're going to be doing, any of the movies that we have done, this movie, Fast and the Furious, that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Phil, you have any thoughts on Fast and the Furious?
Not one.
If you do want to get in contact with us, leave us some feedback. We've got a lot of different ways to do that. Too many, probably, but...
Probably. It's a little cluttered.
But we're going to list them off anyways.
We've got Twitter.
Mm-hmm. If you tweet.
Yep. At CWSBF is our handle.
Yep.
We've got Facebook.
If you Facebook.
If you do that, right.
We've message. If you status message. If you wall post.
Okay, yeah. If you need to have a weird verb for it, yeah, if you wall post. You can email us. Make that weird, Nate.
If you email. That's not that weird.
No, it's not.
But that's at feedback at canwestillbefriends.net
Right.
if you're the emailing type.
Yeah. There's always our website, canwestillbefriends.net.
Yeah.
Comment.
Mm-hmm. If you surf the web. And we have a phone number if you voicemail. The number for that is 847-306-9532. We do encourage you to give us a call.
Yeah. No, yeah. We would love it.
No, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
No, yeah, maybe, sure.
Yeah. Phil's still here, for those of you who are wondering. Thank you, guys. And go ahead and reach out to us. We would love to hear it. And as always, we appreciate you guys listening.
Thank you for listening to our episode 51, Fast and the Furious, and we will catch you next time when we discuss Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Make sure you get the right version. Thanks for listening, if you are still listening at this point.
Yeah. See you later. Bye. You know, they say there's no such thing as a dumb question. But boy, we really tested it tonight.
Yeah.
I could probably come up with dumber.
I was kidding. That's good. That's a good question. Good question. All right, here we go. I'm going to do it. Hello and welcome.
I'm seriously just sitting here. I'm not doing damn thing.
That's never happened before. All right.